A while ago I recorded my Learn to Backside 50/50 grind video. I find these pretty tricky and the process has been fairly arduous trying to get these remotely consistent. So far I've reserved my backside 50/50 grind practice for pieces of long straight coping where I can go in, get into the grind, relax and then bring her back in. I've got a bit of a penchant for pull coping, and the pull at Concrete Waves has got a nice mellow curve to it. Bit of chunky pull coping makes a lovely sound when you grind on it. Seemed like the perfect canvas. The first pull coping grind that I learned was the backside carve grind. I ported my technique across from surfing. I found it very similar to doing a backhand snap up onto the lip, hopefully producing a bit of spray out the back of the wave. Oh my gosh. I found that if I came into these carve grinds with enough speed, I could start to get my weight up on top of the coping, and it was possible to get cross-locked for a millisecond, but because my weight was so inside the turn, it's quite hard to get a lengthy, long, controlled grind. So the backside 50/50 grind technique was the one I was going to need to work on. The first consideration was how to lock in. I've noticed that various guys use various different locking methods. My mate Pi chooses to put both wheels alongside the coping and keep them there and just axle back in with that back wheel against the coping. This allows for a long, fast and stylish grind. My mate Richie favours the cross truck method. So that's back wheel pinched down onto the coping and the front wheel up against the coping, board on a wonk. And again, this provides a really stylish 50/50 grind with the body more centred inside the ramp. The other locking method I've seen used is to have both heel wheels perched on top of the coping. I tried this one out and it certainly feels a little bit strange to be stood up there on top of the board, relying on those heel wheels to grip onto the coping, but it definitely works. The final permutation is to have the trucks cross-locked the opposite way round. So that's back foot toe side wheel up against the coping and front foot heel side wheel pinching down onto the top of the coping. This one's a bit more of a rarity, but my mate Matt uses it to great effect when surfing across the coping on larger sections. For my straight coping grinds, I've worked on developing the feel for those cross truck grinds. I find them really exciting, certainly pretty scary because she tends to really go, and bringing her back in is fairly straightforward because that heel wheel is already there on the coping, ready to axle off of. I've also tried the toe side wheel 50/50 grind, and you certainly zip down the coping with that method. What I tend to do is correct the back wheel towards the end so that I can then axle back in off that back wheel. But during this pull coping session, I'd like to tinker with the technique of using the toe side wheel against the coping to axle back in off of. I did manage to have a short session trying some stand-up grinds about a month ago. I was herring in, there were a few thrills and spills, but I did manage to get a small taste of how it might feel to stand up grind on the pull coping and bring her back in. During this quick session, I did find there are a couple of barriers to entry to getting into the backside 50/50 grind. Number one, this coping is pretty grizzled. There's lots of bumps and cracks, and I found that if I came in with the wrong technique and put that front foot down too hard, I could get the truck caught in a little bit of grizzle off the front, and that was most unpleasant. This experience created a bit of a psychological barrier that I needed to overcome. Every time I came in to try one of these 50/50 grinds, I was worried, it was going to catch and I was going to go over the front. So before I started trying going for the grinds, I thought I'd do a little bit of warming up. First of all, try a few backside axle stalls just to feel how the coping locks in and also feel what the transition was like for coming back in. I also thought I'd try axling in with both wheels jammed up against the coping. In my first session, I had a couple of grinds where I came round, locked with both wheels against the coping, and I just didn't have the courage to axle back in from that position. I'm too used to axling in with the back wheel pinched over the top. So I thought this time I'd cash in on any attempts that went into that position by being prepared with a toe side wheel on the coping, axle in. I found it mega frustrating if the front wheel just lips off the coping at the end of a grind. I have to jump off the board, go to the back of the queue and try again. So I thought this time, if I could cultivate the feeble back in, I could cash in on those ones that just lipped out and keep on going. So following this preparation stage, I felt ready to give a few a go, and I got locked in to my usual lengthy battle. Let's talk through some of the key issues. Number one, locking onto the coping, I found the key elements were to get a really healthy manual with the front foot, get that front truck up in the air so you could feel out when that heel side wheel was going to hit the coping. At that point, it was a case of bringing the shoulder in line with the coping so that you could get the front truck on. I found that if I left my front shoulder open, I just ended up going straight off of the coping. I think the big difference here with curve coping is the need to keep that shoulder in line with the coping and also keep your body slightly inside the turn. I've got a bit of a feel for this because I've been doing 50-50 grinds around a curved ledge, and for that one I found I needed to bend my knees, keep my shoulders in line with the curve and also keep my body nicely inside the turn. That allows me to swish my back legs around as I grind, and then I could come off the grind at the end. I found that if the front truck came off the coping, it was possible to correct this. Ended up doing a bit of a soft shoe shuffle with the truck skipping about, and no one likes to see that. The second issue was getting pitched over the front by putting that front truck down too hard. As mentioned earlier, loads of grizzle there, loads of little crevices to get that front truck caught into. So just needed a slightly more finessed approach, offering the front truck down, trying to keep weight on the back foot. In terms of locking, I found that getting into the cross truck position, that was really scary. It seemed like all hell was going to break loose. The sound was amazing. I did manage to make it in from a couple of cross trucked grinds, and I really enjoyed the feeling. Having both toe side wheels jammed up against the coping felt nice and secure. It was also possible to get quite a nice, long, slow controlled grind. So as usual, I tinkered with my line in, the amount of speed I went in with, and also my technique of locking in the shoulders and the head. And I managed to start getting a feel for making a few stand-up 50-50 grinds. Okay, that's it for the stand-up grinds on curved pull coping video. Whew, those were a lot of fun. I look forward to doing more work on these. Unfortunately, the pool is a good 3 hours drive away, so my practice is fairly intermittent, but I'm determined to get some really fast, long and smooth grinds. I also look forward to adapting my technique so I can do backside 50-50 grinds around the corner of a bowl with steel coping. If you're new to the channel, feel free to hit subscribe. I make new videos every week. As ever, my name's been John Bishop and I'm a middle-aged guy learning how to skate.